So this is the Deviant Dells. And why don't you lead the chorus of our little theme song?
Oh.
Let's it go.
The farmer of the Dells, the farmer of the Dells, this guy's got a whole lot of fucking Dells.
There we go. That's a great one. So let's start off, I guess, with the oldest one here. The oldest one is a Dell Dimension L as in Lauren 600, R as in Ronald. And it is a Pentium 3 with 256 megabytes of RAM and a 10 gigabyte hard drive. It is sure to impress. It came standard with Windows 98. Let's turn this puppy on and just take a quick look at it. Most of these, and actually when I said puppy, that ties in too because it runs Mac Pup Linux. It actually is running a Linux distro on it. So we'll just see this one boot up. There it is, Mac Pup. It's a variation of Puppy Linux. But one of the downfalls to Puppy Linux is that you run it in root. And with that, it makes it less secure than most Linux when you're not running it in the root one. But we can just kind of see a Linux distro boot up. And this is from 1998, I believe, or 2000, right around there. So this is almost 20 years old. And this thing still boots up. And that's the quality of Dell, that they make this stuff to last. You know, where you get an HP, I got an HP that's maybe, I think it's under 10 years old. I've seen some that are under 2 years old. You're lucky if you can get that thing to turn on. You know, it's just going to like... See, look at that great start. Look at how good that graphics are.
Yeah.
Now it's actually looking pretty good. I don't know where the mouse went, so maybe I can just plug one in. I had a mouse laying around here. Anyhow, forget about the mouse, but this is it, and it's a screen. And I'm going to grab a mouse. I need a mouse for that. So, here we go. Getting a mouse, as I was totally prepared for any and every potential issue that I'd run into with this. There's no USB ports on the front. On the back here, oh, I actually don't have the keyboard plugged in either. But anyhow, now I have the mouse plugged in. And we can see it taking off. We can just see it kind of doing its thing. What's cool is it allows you to connect a variety of ways. You can connect via dial-up. You can connect via cellular. You can connect wired or wireless. You can connect PPPoE, and that's basically a DSL connection. So there's a whole variety of stuff. What I'm kind of interested in doing with this later on would be setting up like a ham radio configuration. Because ham radio operates at a lower frequency, lower speeds when you run it through that network. I'd probably change the distro to another one just because this runs on root, but I just thought it was cool to show here's almost a 20-year-old computer and it still boots up, still loads. I'm thinking I'm loading up Firefox right now. How I got this computer, I got it 5 years ago, and I taught computer classes about 5 years ago, primarily to flood victims, seniors, all that. What I saw when I got this computer, it was pretty traumatic. It was running Linux, but I'd never seen a Linux computer so abused and so just like, yeah. So I had to do a new install, and I gave the lady, I gave her another computer I got from a friend of mine. I've given out computers to different people in need,
It's too bad that there isn't some kind of like, you know how you have animal control,
yeah.
that there isn't some kind of equivalent of that for technology. Like if a computer has been really badly abused and mistreated, you call in, the
Cyber Patrol.
And they rescue. It's like computer and tech rescue.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, but I think there's more of a disposability of it. Really, there's Midwest Computer Brokers in Walford. That's where a majority of this equipment's been bought.
They're probably the closest thing to that in this area.
Yeah, and there was a place called the REACT Center, which was the Rockwell Collins Educational Access to Computer Technology. It ran from 99 to 2015. Really enriched the community. Really was an asset to the Cedar Rapids area, and that's where I learned a lot of my skills here. And they took all the surplus corporate ones and really gave them to schools, police, really built the computing backbone of a lot of public sector and nonprofit organizations to get them on the information superhighway. Now, I think that a lot of the technology's dropped in price, And I think what killed them is when they said, hey, how about instead of getting free technology that's donated to us, let's use taxpayer money and get all the kids proprietary iPads. And say, hey kiddies, you can use these iPads with proprietary stuff and we can all worship our God Steve Jobs and his glorious tablet. As he descended upon California, he brought forth his tablet and he said, these are my 10 commandments. Give me your money. Use my proprietary software. You know what I mean? And we could come up with the 10 commandments of Steve Jobs. That would be a good video too, about how he wants to trample on your freedoms, steal your money, and, you know, just, I'm not a huge fan. Anyhow, we'll focus on Dells though, because this is really my Dells, and we've already done Steve Jobs rants, and you could do that for hours.
Yeah, I think we talked about him quite a bit in the Macintosh video. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan either.
Yep. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is an old corporate one. It's the one that's sitting right here. It has a floppy drive, comparable storage space, all that, and it's called the Dell Optiplex. G is in George, X is in X-ray, 1, GX1. Again, it's a Pentium 3, and it runs Windows 98. It has a Linux distro on it, but it doesn't boot up anymore. The hard drive failed. Comparable specs to what the tower over there had, but I'm going to scrap this after today. I just thought it'd be cool to show. This is kind of a pizza box style tower. So, and then I'm going to go through my next ones here. I guess I'll just show you this. Look at the Dell. Look at the Dell.
A little more this way.
Oh, the Dell. There you go.
Yeah.
The Dell. And this is kind of cool. I'll pop the top here. And now look at yourselves as you look at the Dell. Reflect here. Why don't you handle this if you're so good at finding the camera?
Yes.
You know, I can't really see it. I just assume it's in the right spot.
And so this is a circuit, right?
Yeah, and it's from 2001. And I think that symbol, if we look at it there, and we see the 2001 that we see there on the Dell, that was really a significant year in computing. And that really kind of set the precedent for what we've really seen, I would say, up until the iPhone. Because that's when Windows XP rolled out. It rolled out in 2001. And it really got the computers. They used to operate like X95 and 98, and those operated on what was called the 9X architecture type. And then they transitioned to an NT configuration. And NT really kind of standardized it, and it helped it. Really now Windows is all mostly on Universal. And there was really a big push for Windows 10. Because they realized that it's more cost effective when we have a unified experience and system to support compared to more of a fragmented market of XP, 7, 8, 10, 8.1, 8.6666, you know, which was possessed and was just total garbage. But
don't feed the beast.
That's the default one that HP's rolled in. No, I'm kidding. So, but this was cool. I got this at an art museum, and it was $30, so it was about the cost of a computer.
No, it wasn't.
This was $30.
It was?
I paid $30 for this masterpiece here.
Oh my God.
But it supports an artist, and it supported an art museum, and I like the symbol and the imagery of it enough that I was willing to support those groups.
Wow, that artist should have taken you out for dinner.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot.
I know. I don't think they sell that much, so I'm very generous. That's telling you how vested I am with Dells. That they make art of this, and I'm willing to spend the money. I'm willing to support the artist. I like the nonprofit group that did the art, so I felt like it was a decent investment to help both out. You know, but now I guess we'll focus more on the Dell. So I want to show you these two, and I don't know if I'm going to see if we can we get this so. Let me know if they can see it, where they can see
That's
both
perfect,
of the Dells. See how you can see them and they kind of complement each other? They're kind of like art.
Yep.
So I'll go through both of these in a minute. The other one I'm going to go through.
There's a certain. Are those from around the same time?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I like the kind of the consistency in design.
Yeah.
The Dell logo is in the center, but also off to the side like that. and it's kind of cool. It makes it look sleek.
And then it's cool how they complemented each other too. Like it was the big one and then mini me.
Yeah.
So this one, I guess I'll focus on these and then we'll go to the other ones. They're not really in the exact order, but this one is pretty solid. And this one I used for well over a year. I got for a really, really good price. I got for such a low price, I can't even tell you on a video.
Fell off of the back of a truck.
It's a very good deal. I mean, basically, I will say, get computers at Midwest Computer Brokers. They get the best. Get a Dell there. They'll hook you up. If you want a computer, they're your go-to place. And this one's a 10-year-old one. Has standard stuff. So, you know, everybody devalues the Ethernet port. The Ethernet port is really a valuable asset for troubleshooting and just for a more secure configuration and network. Where everybody's like, well, I want an Apple. I want something so thin that it's thinner than a CD. And then when I touch the keys, they just are so tiny, I don't even know if I'm hitting the right key.
Yeah.
You know, where I think a solid, feel this laptop. What did you say? This one was considered a top of the line business class one. When this was new, this was a $2,000 laptop.
Yeah.
But feel the material. See on the back, everything's basically metal. It's solid.
It's heavy.
This
It's
ain't
solid.
cheap crap.
Yeah. It's you definitely couldn't just like crack it in half.
And then the netbook, I really kind of have a thing for netbooks. I like them. I just think that they're no longer made. Basically, netbooks came out around 2007. There was a program called One Laptop Per Child. And what I like that idea of that program, never really supported it. What it was is you bought a laptop and they gave one to some starving kid in Africa. Don't know how it really fed them, but it fed them with knowledge, I guess. But anyhow,
Yeah, once they can get electricity and everything.
well, no, I think it ran on solar. It had like a solar panel on it. It was the coolest thing. So they started the netbook market. They really created the netbook market because there's no CD drive with this.
So what year is that?
This is 2009, and this thing's solid too. This is like that one.
How about you open that up?
Sure.
We can get a look at that.
And I'll turn it on even. I'll even turn this one on because this one runs Linux. It originally ran Windows XP. As you can see, it was designed for Windows XP, and it has an Atom architecture, which I believe is more of an ARM type. I don't think this is a traditional Intel configuration. So it's more of like how cell phones would be configured.
Yeah.
With that, and this is a Latitude 2100. New, they were $400 to $600.
I definitely like that. I really like. I like how it has the base of it is like thick and solid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you know, I've got a laptop about that size now that's like a more recent Asus, and the laptop is like you know it's almost kind of top heavy because the base is not, you know, like when you look at something like that, it looks like a lot more solid and like there's more to it, and it's going to last a while.
Well, you can just feel the.
And I like the rubberized, kind of almost like rubberized surface. I mean, it's almost like it almost feels like it's shockproof or something.
Well, it's designed for kids. It was designed to be used in schools, so kids could spill pop on it. Kids could beat it to hell, and this thing's still gonna go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what's really nice about it.
Definitely looks solid, and I like that. I'm not into like the really thin devices, you know.
Well, they're cheaply made, and they're not well. I just don't like them either.
It's like everybody wants, you know. I mean, it's like I like something to be compact enough that it's portable, but this is about the limit of that to me. Like that still looks like it's solid and that it's going to last you a while, and that it has some actual hardware in it.
Yeah, and what's nice, again, it has an Ethernet port. You ain't going to get that with an Apple, Ethernet port. You're not going to get that with an Apple, because none of the Apple devices actually have Ethernet ports. It has 3 USB drives and an external VGA, video out thing. It has a spot for an external traditional keyboard as well. So, I mean, it is really pretty versatile, and for the size and for the thing, it was a pretty good deal. And this is Ubuntu again. It's an old version of it, but it's still cool that this runs. And this is from 2009. And really, the netbook died in 2013. At that point, either people got real laptops, full-fledged ones, or they got iPad tablets and crap. And then it just killed this market. But the one laptop per child really started it, and then within 5 years, it was basically, it's gone, it's over, you know. So, but it was a cool thing, and I like it. It's kind of a cool, again, the Dell Latitude 2100. So I will shut that one down. And this also had the option for like a touch screen and that. This is only a 16 gigabyte hard drive, so it's pretty small. It's a solid state one.
Especially small for the time. It's like back in the day, they would still give you lots of storage.
You see that here? It's like embossed on it. It's like solid.
That's nice. Yeah.
So
no, but that's another thing I miss about like devices, that they don't have as much storage as they used to, because they want you to use the cloud. They want you to store everything in the cloud instead of on your devices, which I'm not a big fan of. I mean, you know, I'm okay with like using the cloud maybe as like a backup or something, but I want to have my stuff on my device.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have my shit actually on there. I want to feel like it's mine, that I own it, and that it's there. You know.
yeah.
Not just in the ether where I can just like call upon it and it's there maybe, but it's actually being controlled by somebody else.
And I'm going to boot this one up. This one I've used for years. This has been another Linux laptop of mine. I believe it's from 2008 again. Maybe it's a little earlier than that. It's a Latitude D as in David 630. So D630 Latitude. Again, it was a commercial grade one. CD drive, DVD drive. I got so many of these, and I got them so cheap that I even gave one to the Deviant here to help empower him.
Well, I'm the captain.
Oh, sorry, the captain.
Captain unusual. You're the Deviant.
Yeah, I see. I'm disoriented with all the Dells and the Deviants and the Ds going on here. So the captain has one just identical to this, only...
We should point out that is one of the side effects of Dell. Side effects may include temporary confusion and disorientation,
with D.
especially when you're overdosing on them, like the Deviant historian is right now. I mean, like this is like a decade's dosage of Dells right here, and he's taking them all in at once.
GNU is freedom. GNU is freedom. Praise Richard Stallman. GNU is freedom.
This is freedom. GNU is love. GNU is freedom.
Yeah, GNU Linux is a lot of the free and open source software principles were based on GNU, and then the dude from the Netherlands or Sweden or wherever he's from came up with Linux, the operating system, and then GNU is a governing philosophy within that. This has Firefox, and this has Thunderbird, both Mozilla software, free and open source, that it runs. You can see the buttons are really worn off on here. I've used this a lot. Well, at least the upper buttons are, and I've used this quite a bit. It's an 80 gig hard drive, 2 gigs of RAM for all that, and it's a pretty good one. I've liked it a lot. I mean, these things are tanks. They go and they can do quite a bit. Would you say overall you've been pretty happy with yours?
Oh yeah.
You know, but we always laugh. Freedom isn't free. When you sacrifice for Linux, you'll have various things that will glitch out sometimes.
Yep.
You know, sometimes you want to watch a video and skip ahead. Good luck with that.
Sometimes you want to watch Netflix. Sometimes you want to do certain things, and you can usually find a way to do it, but it's going to take some time and effort and some research, and it'll be somewhat inconvenient.
Yeah, but I mean, again, you're not surrendering your sovereignty to a corporation. And this runs Zoran Linux, which is a variation of Ubuntu and some other Linux distros. That's
one thing that I think a lot of people don't take into account when they, I would say most of the world uses Windows, and a lot of people, they've just taken it as a
fact of life that you're
gonna fact of life that you're gonna have. That every few days your computer is going to update and it's going to turn itself off, and whether you want it to or not, and it's going to update. And that what a lot of people don't realize is that indicates that you don't actually own the software. Like if you owned the software, they wouldn't be able to do that without your permission. But because they're licensing it to you, they still technically own the software, which was a business strategy that Bill Gates came up with. And yeah, so they can update that software because technically you don't own it. You own the hardware, but you don't own the software. It's just being licensed to you.
Yeah, I don't like that. Most of my devices run Windows 10, which is a combination of an operating system and spyware. But because basically that's how they had to monetize it. People, because of Android and other free options, weren't going to pay for software in addition to the hardware. So they just said, okay, we'll give you a nice operating system, but we're going to spy on it and do what they do with all the other stuff there.
Yeah.
And that's that one. So that was the main one that I've used. This is actually my newest one, and you can kind of see here. It's a here's the stats on it. It's big. It's a 17-inch HD display. It definitely feels kind of cheaper. It's definitely a desktop replacement compared to the other ones that are corporate ones. And here you can see that. Look at how big that display is, though. This seems like a tank.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
that's
big
how
screen.
big it is. But the keyboards are a lot thinner, and it feels a lot more cheap than like the other ones. But you can see it. It's an Inspiron 17-inch.
That's pretty much as big as laptops get, isn't it?
That's why I got it. It has 8 gigs of RAM. It's a 256 gig solid state hard drive. So the solid state's like the fastest, the best you can get. And for the price I paid for it, it's about what. Basically, I paid for a hard drive and a couple other things. It was basically I paid for what a hard drive of this size would cost, and I got a computer with it. So it was a very good deal. All that. It's designed for 7, runs Windows 10. I really haven't had any issues with it. It feels different though than the other ones. I mean, I definitely can feel that it's a little more on the cheaper side of the construction of things.
It looks thin.
Yeah, and the keyboards are really thin, and yeah, it does have a CD drive still, SD slot.
Compare that to this one where it's like, it's kind of bulky, but it's solid looking, and it looks like something that's gonna serve you well.
Yeah, I think this one will be good for me for a while. I always use an external keyboard and mouse, and I don't really move it. So
yeah, also if it would make a good desktop basically.
Yeah.
It'd be a good, essentially a substitute for a desktop. If you just had it on your desk, if you don't have to move it around a lot, it would work just fine. But for something that's going to be more portable, you want it to kind of be more rugged like this thing.
Yep, and that's kind of what I'm planning on doing with that thing. That'd be just a portable one if I was going to class or if I was going to go.
I also dig how it
places.
Has that thing on the back that props it up. Like that stand thing.
I think that's also an external battery.
Looks like it.
Yeah, so
because you can pull this this lever here, this thing. Pull that thing and it detaches.
And it's pretty cool. And I mean these were designed to be really used in the classroom, and I think in a lot of ways these would have been better for kids than iPads, because iPads are just proprietary garbage that exploits children. And
brainwashes them. And
it just says, oh, tap here, and so then all they know is to just tap stuff. They can't code, they can't do anything. But really, the opposite of an iPad is really a Raspberry Pi. And I have one of those, and maybe at some point we'll do a video about that as well. But I did one about 5 years ago on them, and I like those little things there.
Do you know why they're called Raspberry Pis? Yeah,
but I forgot. So that's going to be in that video when I remember.
Yeah, because I've always been curious about that. Like I always thought that. See, I'm not as technical. Like I'm not as technologically advanced as the Deviant historian is, because I tend to keep things kind of not necessarily low tech, but just kind of like I use what I need, and I don't necessarily like. I'm not always after that. I'm not like a shut up and take my money type of person where I always need the newest, most advanced thing.
And I'm not either per se, but I always like learning about it. I'm always really aware more of it.
There was a time when I thought that the Raspberry Pi was like a modified BlackBerry, because that would kind of make sense, because it's like a BlackBerry and then you modify it and it turns into a Raspberry Pi because they're both fruit-based names.
Pi is PI, and it's the mathematical term. I remember that.
Have you ever noticed, though, that a lot of technology, maybe Apple started this trend, but a lot of technology is named after fruit?
Yes.
It's kind of an interesting phenomenon.
Oh, going back to Dell, too, you're reminding me of fruit and other stuff. Michael Dell was very influential in the Austin, Texas Jewish community. He gives a lot of money away, and he really influenced that. Like a lot of the hipster urban stuff in Austin, Dell was a part of that. He helped contribute, and make that more of a viable community. And then years later, he bought the company when it kind of went a little downhill, and he reestablished it. And I feel like if you're a business, that slogan, dude, you're getting a Dell, dude, you should get a Dell. Because I feel like a Dell, you can see from all this stuff that I have here, this stuff lasts. This is good quality equipment that you're getting. You're not getting, I feel like Apple, how they say their equipment's designed for Apple stuff, Windows and a lot of applications and a lot of traditional desktop applications were designed for Dell. Dell is kind of like the peak of hardware equipment and design and form and that in the Windows marketplace. I mean, there's other more expensive ones, but for your price and your quality, it really peaks at Dell.
Yeah. Like I've had, in my life, I've had probably half a dozen laptops, and they all have only, I've never had a Dell until now with this one that you gave me. And all of the ones that I've had, they've been several different brands, and none of them have lasted more than 2.5 years. None of them have survived more than 2.5 to 3 years of everyday use. I have a feeling that a Dell would probably last longer than that.
These are all 10 years old. They're all from somewhere between 2007 to 2010 when they were made.
Right.
This one might be a little newer, but yeah.
And they haven't seen as much use because they haven't been in constant use. Or have they?
They're corporate ones, so I don't know where they were. These are all surplus corporate ones. I got them used.
At any rate, I think that you could definitely expect, even with everyday use, you could expect at least 5 years of good use.
Yeah, I think so. Because the one that I beat the most out of was this one that I got at least 5 years ago, and I use this a lot. And I've sold several of these, and I still have some available for sale and I can get them if you want. And it has VGA out, has an Ethernet, even has a phone line. So if you do dial-up, you can get that.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, this is kind of the last of that era, and this is a pretty versatile one. And it has a DVD-R for writable and a DVD-R-W for rewritable. So it's pretty versatile with this drive, and I think this still works. I never use it. And it actually has 4 USB. So there's 2 in the back, 2 on the side. So, I mean, this is, I think, for the value and for what it is, it's a pretty good deal. And it works pretty good,
Yeah.
Dude, you're getting a Dell, and we talked about the art, we talked about the various Dells here.
And when you go to the store and you get yourself a Dell, make sure to tell them that the Deviant historian sent you. And they're going to say, what the hell are you talking about? And security, kick this guy out now. Because they're going to have it's not a promotion, I'm afraid. But do it anyway.
Yeah.
Say it anyway. Just tell them the Deviant historian sent you. And you're going to get a lot of weird looks. But hopefully they won't kick you out of the store. They'll still sell you a Dell and want your business.
Well, Dell...
Use promo code... No.
Captain Unusual. Yeah,
well, no, this is more your thing, though.
Well, you should subscribe, because Captain and I do such amazing videos that they're going to want to subscribe and fight about Dells in the comments. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm running this on a 10-year-old thing, and it's still going. Yeah. And what are they? They're running it on an Apple that's
and please feel free to fight in the comments. I encourage that. I encourage as much fighting and arguing and, slander and personal attacks. Somebody likes Dell and you hate them. Feel free to, fat shame them, make all kinds of slanderous statements. Just really have fun with it. I really support that because it gets me more views. So have at it. Let the nerd debates commence.
Because there's 2 things that with what he's saying there that because we know you are a badass and you should never wrestle with a pig.
Yep.
So those two things, just to encourage interaction with this
That'll show
amazing
'em.
video. Yeah, and
That'll show them that you know more about technology than some stranger on the internet.
but the Dells are pretty cool. And two other things I guess I'd mention. My dad, when we grew up, we had a gateway. We had a Windows 95 gateway up until like 2005. So we had that thing for 10 years. We were running dial-up. I grew up on that. And
We had a Windows 95. I forget if it was a Dell. I think it was.
Or a gateway. Those were really the two big ones. We had a gateway.
Yeah, and it was never hooked up to the internet, but it was our family computer, and I would write reports up on it and stuff.
Wow. You guys never had dial-up or anything at the farm?
No internet connection at all. But we still had the computer, and it was a Windows 95, and I'm pretty sure it was a Dell. And I would I would write up my reports, and I would save them on 3.5-inch floppy disks.
You still have it? What happened to that computer?
I think my parents got rid of it.
Oh, okay. I could probably still keep it going. You put Linux on it and keep it going for them. But
that'd be cool.
Yeah, so if you find it, let me know. But the other thing, I guess, so we had the gateway, the Windows 95 gateway, and we used that for years. Dell originally sold only direct. They only sold it like Dell.com and on their phone number. They never sold in stores, but then they eventually expanded their reach to stores and that.
When did they only sell online, and like what time frame would that be?
From the 80s, they only sold over the phone, and then 90s they got on the line and phone, and then sometime in the 2000s, I think, is when they actually went to retail because they didn't want